Hi, honeys. It's Michelle and Brad. I thought it would be kind of fun to do a video where we're talking about what this whole outbreak situation would be like if it had happened in the 80s. And as the news is breaking that everybody has to go home and hunker down for weeks on end. I think people would not have gone to Walmart or Target because they might have existed, but not all over the place like they do now. People would have gone to Kmart,
And Woolworths.
Woolworths, and people would not have bought a bunch of bottled water because it didn't exist yet. You would have drank out of your hose or your sink.
Mm-hmm. When it came to the news, your options were the 6 o'clock news on the network channels. So you had CBS, ABC, and NBC. They would come in on 6 and cut out at 7. And most of the stories were local interest type of deals. So that was the extent of your television news. There was no internet, so you didn't have Drudge Report and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook to get news sources from. And then you also had newspapers. Most of the bigger newspapers had a morning and an evening edition. And in the event of something significant happening, they'd have a special edition. But otherwise, but most newspapers were one print per day, and it varied if it was morning or afternoon, and those were your only sources of information.
Yeah, and you couldn't binge watch anything. There were no shows on tape. It was tape back then, not even.
VHS, yes.
Yeah, there were no DVRs or DVDs. There was no internet, so you couldn't go on Netflix or anything to watch stuff. There was HBO, it just came out, and there was like a handful of stations. So all you could watch is what was on live TV, or you could watch VHS. So we were talking the other night, there probably would have been a line out the door and around the corner at every Blockbuster video, and there probably would have been fights over who got the last Rambo First Blood Part 2. As far as communication goes, well, there was no internet or cell phones, so you couldn't text anyone or anything. You'd have to pick up an old fashioned phone and rotary dial someone. And then what you'd have to do if you wanted privacy is go into a room and stretch the cord as far as you possibly could. What we used to do was stretch them really far and close the door, like kind of wrap this around the edge of the door and then close it so it's stuck in the door, and then you'd probably be stuck sitting right on the other side of the door, talking to your friends and your boyfriend.
And if you had two phones in the house, somebody else could pick up the other phone and listen into your conversation. And back then, if you dialed outside of your county, it was usually a long distance charge.
Right, so you had to worry about how long you were on the phone because otherwise it would cost a lot. And I remember I got in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. I called, there were these hotlines that you could call, and that's probably would have been very appealing during a situation like this, a hotline where you could call and just talk to a group of people that were your age. But it was like $3.99 a minute or something back then, which would be a lot for today. So when your kid ended up on a hotline for hours on end, you'd end up with this $500 phone bill. Sorry, Mom. Okay, so when we were at the grocery store, this woman's bologna started to fall over the little, what are those called? The little divider thing between each order.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady ringing us up said, "Is this yours?" And I said, "No, it's the other lady's, or lady behind me's, but it actually sounds kind of good." It was like that, the old bologna with the little red plastic things around each slice. And then we got into this conversation about how in the 80s, you could have a bologna sandwich with mayonnaise and mustard, or you could grill it with a piece of cheese on each end. And that was really good. I mean, I don't eat like that now, but it sounds good. Doesn't that sound kind of good? So if hoarding did happen, it probably would have been hot dogs, bologna, mac and cheese, just Kraft mac and cheese. They didn't have all the other brands back then. Maybe Kix.
Maybe, well, I don't know if hoarding would even occur because back then guys were a lot tougher, even if it was to their own detriment. Like, hey, I don't care about no damn virus.
Yeah.
and they would just go about their lives. They'd still show up to work, and if they got sick, they'd walk it off
Right.
and go right back to work, infect everybody, and then everybody at work would also be like, walk it off. And that would be the closest thing to a quarantine you would get back in the 80s.
Yeah. And at home, the kids would just be drinking Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
And probably grape or cherry. Which was your favorite flavor?
The orange.
The orange. Oh, I was a cherry girl myself. And then what else would we be doing? We'd be riding our bikes probably if we were at home for a couple of weeks, running through the sprinkler. Remember how fun that used to be?
Yeah, that's when Slip and Slide came out.
Slip and Slide? Oh my gosh. And then on Saturday morning is when we had the cartoons that would come on.
Mm-hmm.
What did you watch?
I watched Transformers and Ghostbusters was weekday. I don't know if I watched Saturday cartoons because we only had one TV with cable, and my sisters monopolized like My Little Pony and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like I watched Care Bears and the Smurfs. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds like.
Yeah,
I remember Muppet Babies too. Oh, and He-Man. I remember that was an after-school thing.
Yeah, when I was
So what would you do for entertainment when you were at home aside from watching TV? You would probably listen to records, read Bop magazine, and make mixtapes for your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Maybe write those little Ninja Star love notes that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Everybody. One thing, if you weren't alive in the 80s, you might not know this, but everybody had their own signature way of folding notes.
Mm-hmm. Everybody had their own origami style.
Yeah. And those notes, that was really the 80s version of text messaging.
Yes. Yep. The chicks would fold them up in these little triangles and stars and all this other craziness and then shove it in the little hole in the locker. So when the guys went to the locker, in between periods or for lunch, there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 notes every break.
And if there was homeschooling during this time in the 80s, we would have been homeschooling ourselves, just so you know.
Yeah.
We all just went to school and walked home and let ourselves in the house. And I don't remember having a babysitter at all from the time of being maybe 7 on. I was always taking care of myself. Right, yeah. And we had chores too. So that's the other thing. Our parents would just be like, I want not one speck of dust in this entire house when I get home. And they would leave and you'd be listening to records and cleaning all day long. And so we didn't really have to worry about getting bored as much as a kid, I don't think. But then if we actually had time after all the cleaning and homeschooling ourselves, then we would go do slip and slide or ride a bike. Or hopscotch. That was another big thing. The house that we lived in when I was a little girl, there was this nice long sidewalk, and I used to draw these long hopscotch formats or whatever, and spend a lot of time on that.
We used to build skateboard ramps
and forts.
Oh well, snow forts, in the winters, yes.
Oh yeah, in Washington State, my brothers just built actual forts up in trees and stuff.
Yeah, I did a couple of those as well.
Another thing that kids would do on their bikes is play cops and robbers. Do kids do that now? I feel like they don't.
I don't think so. And then there's laser tag.
Was that a thing in the 80s?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I was busy doing girl stuff, like playing with Care Bears and Barbies and stuff.
Yeah, the laser
tag.
Cabbage
Patch Kids.
was these big ass, I guess they were pistols. And then you wore this little harness with an alarm on the front and back that detected the light from the pistols. So to cheat, everybody would run around like this so you can hit the sensor.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so otherwise, in the 80s, you could put jigsaw puzzles together, which, I ordered one over a week ago, and Amazon still hasn't delivered it, so. But we didn't have Amazon back then. We didn't really have the amount of deliveries that we do now, did we? You could play board games like Boggle and What else do we have? Scrabble. We had Shoots and Ladders and Candyland. Would you say earlier Mousetrap?
Mousetrap, Monopoly, Dungeons and Dragons, Hungry Hungry Hippo.
Mm-hmm. Scrabble. Clue. Oh, what were you saying about if you were playing like a gaming system in the 80s? What would you have played?
Most likely Nintendo, the original 8-bit Nintendo.
Like Mario Brothers
Yeah, it'd be
or
Mario Brothers and Contra, and when the Nintendo first came out, there's only like 5 or 6 games, Blaster Master. But you would just play them over and over and over.
I remember Duck Hunt too.
Duck Hunt, yeah, that was the first game to come out with the little pistol.
And then of course we had Atari. That just had like one or two games though, right?
No, Atari went bankrupt, but they had dozens of games before they went bankrupt. But that was the early '80s.
I feel like I remember Q*bert and Frogger and Pac-Man,
Right.
which I'm able to play Pac-Man during this quarantine because Brad got me in this Pac-Man game. So it's nice because while I'm editing videos in between, while I'm waiting for things to download, I have that plugged into the computer and I can just play it. It's really nice. A little bit of 80s memories there.
Back then, the virus wouldn't have spread nearly as fast because most people didn't travel outside of their town or the neighboring town. Everything that they wanted in their life, all their friends, all their groceries, and all their shopping were done right there. They might travel to a city to go to a mall, but otherwise, air travel was not all that common. Back then, a single ticket was a whole week's pay, whereas nowadays, especially with the oil prices being way down, and you could fly anywhere on certain airlines for 40, 50, $60 right now, which would be unheard of back then. So there was a lot less business travel, a lot less physical connectivity, so there would have been a lot less chance to spread the virus, and there was a lot less international dependency for manufacturing and other economic activity.
Yeah, that's true too. How lucky are we to be alive now when a world quarantine disaster outbreak happens? If you think about it, I mean, how amazing is this to be able to go on YouTube and watch people talking about the 80s, or be able to go on YouTube and look at the news in other countries, other states. They have those live feeds where you can look at pretty much any city in the entire country and what's going on right now. Or on Twitter, it's pretty neat. There's people from all over the world commenting on other people's feeds or even on Instagram. It's pretty neat. Just last night, what do we have? Flavor Flav and New Kids on the Block, or well, Donnie Wahlberg and Joey McIntyre. They did like a live Instagram thing, which was really nice. And there was people all over the world commenting. And then there was that DJ. Oh shoot, what's his name? DJ Nice. He played for 8 hours straight, and there was people all over the world watching. He had, I think it was, when I tuned in, it was 55,000 people from all over the world just leaving these like messages in the feed with a flag of what country they were from, and it was a lot of flags I've never even seen before. I mean, it was pretty crazy. And it's amazing that we can all come together and support each other and talk to people all over the place, see how people are doing. It's amazing, and realize just how lucky we are. We can all work together on this, and we can binge watch anything we want.
Yes. You don't have to wait until Friday night to go to Blockbuster to get the latest release, which would only be one a month. You can get a pay-per-view now for cheaper than it was to rent that new movie.
Right.
And if you feel like you're getting angry over cabin fever, just remember there's people who are stationed on military ships for half a year or more at a time per deployment. And there's people who have to live in tents with 40 other guys for months at a time. And they seem to come out of it all right on the other side. So You get to sleep in your own bed. You get to watch your own television or streaming. You get to play your own games, all of which is on demand. You can go on Steam and download any game you want. So
if you start getting irritated, if you're living with other people, you start getting irritated, you can go in a different room and close the door. Even if it's just the bathroom, you can get in another room and close the door. But in the military, you can't do that. Everywhere you go, even in the bathroom, there's other people. I mean, it's literally everywhere you go. You
Yeah,
have
so-
you do not have your own space.
even though you might be feeling you're going stir crazy, there are plenty of 20-year-olds who do the same thing day in and day out, and they come out just fine when they get home from deployment. So don't fret. It shouldn't be that long, and it should be maybe a month or so before effective treatments are deployed. And hopefully some of these travel bans and stay-at-home orders will be lifted or at least alleviated, so we can conduct some sort of business as our lives dictate again.
And be sure to thank all the people who are out there showing up to work anyway. Like your grocer. I couldn't believe it. The lady that checked us out at the grocery store, when I thanked her for coming to work today, she looked shocked. I don't think other people have been thanking her.
No.
And that really broke my heart because I wouldn't want to go to work right now. I mean, I probably would if I had a job where I worked out in the public if I needed to, but I wouldn't want to, right? So I think it's really good to thank people for being there, for putting their health on the line to make sure that you're able to get whatever, you're there to buy, whether it be food or if you're at the drive-thru at McDonald's or what have you. And then the other people who are still showing up to work, like the nurses and the doctors and the cops and the firefighters and military, of course.
Oh, and a shout out.
People like Brad who keep your internet turned on.
Oh, shush.
Hey, you're the real hero. We wouldn't get by very far without internet right now.
And a big shout out to the Albertsons on Buffalo and Lake Mead. They had 4 people dedicated to sanitizing the store all the time. They would just go shelf to shelf, rotate the products off, sanitize it, put the products back, go to the next shelf, and it's over and over and over. And they had 4 people doing it this morning.
Yeah, we were in there for a while and it never stopped. And they also, which I thought was so wonderful, they had a 2-item limit for, what was it, bread, milk, eggs, meat.
Toilet paper, sanitizer,
Yeah.
all the other high demand items right now. 2-item limit, period, end of story.
Yeah. So that way, when our elderly community goes out and finally decides to get what they need, because I know they're kind of scared to leave the house, they're able to get it if they go to at least that Albertsons. And the other thing is, like Brad's sister is a nurse, and she has been working constantly, and she stops to go to the grocery store to get food for her kids and can't find anything to eat. We need to really make sure that we get what we need and limit how much excess we're actually taking. And so I love that Albertsons stepped up and said, you won't be doing that here. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe and try to stay somewhat sane. Let me know down in the comments what you're doing to stay busy. If there's any shows that you're enjoying binge watching or any good movies to keep the spirits up, let me know. Or I don't know, just whatever you're doing to stay occupied and happy right now. All right.
And don't forget to call a friend or a family member.
That's right.
You might be alone, but you don't have to use a big clunky thing.
867-5309, right?
Oh my gosh.
Back when you had to memorize phone numbers or have a little black book in your pocket to remember phone numbers with.
in the Mohawk Valley, which is east of Utica, New York, that number went to the city of Mohawk. I forgot what government office.
Really?
Yes, it went to a government office that 315-367-5309.
867, yeah.
Yeah, or I'm sorry, 86. Yeah, whatever.
I shouldn't correct you.
867-5309. Yeah.
It went to a government office?
It went to a city government office.
Gosh, that is
It
too
was something
funny.
like sanitation or bug control or something like that.
Can you imagine all the phone calls we're getting at
Yes.
2 a.m. from drunk people? All right. I'm just going to play with this phone cord for hours on end. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.